All right, so I have Dan come up right now. I'll go briefly. So I met Dan in 2010 at Baldwin Wallace University. We were both there pursuing our education to become pastors. Dan was fresh out of prison. If you can imagine something going wrong in somebody's life, it's happened to Dan. He's got one of the most incredible stories you'll ever hear of. Abuse, addiction, incarceration, heart failure, a beautiful wife, beautiful children, a beautiful home, a good job, everything. All the highs, the lows that you can imagine in a life have been in one life. And so for me to be his good friend for several years, it's been pretty cool. Cool is not the right word. Interesting to observe, and just to know his journey and to hear his story. Because when we met, we bonded quickly and we became very close. And then, I went into ministry and he didn't, and kind of drifted away, and we kind of drifted apart. And then now we're, coming back together again as he's feeling something is going on in his life. He can't quite put his finger on it. But God is doing something. And so we've been talking more and more. I think we did by about 6 hours of phone calls just this week alone. And so finally I said, why don't you just come on Sunday and we'll just, share your story, and and he goes, well, what do you want to talk about? I'm like, I don't know. What do you I'm like, I don't know, dude. Just show up. We'll see what happens. And he's like, man, I don't know. That doesn't sound right. And I'm like, it'll be fine. That's what I said. We just show up and just see what happens. And so next week he has an opportunity to go speak at a men's lunch, which a small crowd of only about 250 people. And so he's like, I don't know what to do. How do I prepare? I'm like, I'll just show up and talk, And but anyway, so I'm just excited for him and just really love him as a friend and as a brother. And, just wanted to kind of see where life goes. And so, we've been talking a lot about the lies that we've been told, and we've been talking a lot about our stories and the stories that we live, and how to overcome those. And there's not a lie that has been told that hasn't been told to Dan. There's not an obstacle that needs to be overcome that he hasn't had to overcome. And so I just thought, well, let him come and share and see what happens. So we're here, and we'll see what happens. And if we go really long, we'll go long. If we go short, then we'll just play some more music, and we'll make it happen. So make sure your microphone's on. Their button there. We gotta hold it until it turns on. There you go. We got all this fancy technology. I had to rewire everything this morning to make it happen. And so anyway, this is Dan.
Where do we start? Can you guys hear me okay? Is this working?
It's for the internet. It's for the cameras. So you got to hold it close though. Okay. Yeah.
Well, everybody, thank you for having me. I just haven't done this in a very long time, but I'm excited. I guess I'll kind of just start a little bit from the beginning, as Jimmy was mentioning, kind of the lies that we've been told sometimes. I grew up in kind of an abusive home, and I think it made it very easy for me to not want to know God, because I have a dad and he sucks. So I don't need another father. I don't like the one I got, and I don't like the way it makes me feel, and I don't like the way that I was always kind of taught, you got to be scared into loving God, and that it wasn't about love and forgiveness. It was about bad things are going to happen if you don't go ahead and do what we're telling you to do. And so I'm a contrarian. I've always been kind of a rebel. So I push back very easy and go, you're telling me I have to do this, and I should be scared of it, so I'm not, and I'm ignoring it, and I'm not doing this. And it took me a very, very long time until I got to basically the darkest point in my life, to where I finally really found Jesus. I went to church a couple times as a kid, once every couple years on Christmas or Easter or something, when my dad was kind of in a weird mood. And the relationship that we had pushed me so far that I just wanted to do everything that was bad now. And I just don't want to do everything that you're not supposed to do. I wanted to do. I wanted to party because I was told not to do it. I wanted to go and drink because I was told you're not supposed to do it. You're not even old enough to drive. Why are you doing this? Well, because you told me not to do it. And eventually that led to me having a lot of issues, partied a lot, eventually got into some trouble. We can, we'll spare the details, got into, a little bit of trouble and found myself sentenced to 6 months. And I was 19 years old and I was scared. And I was angry because how could this happen to me? I was told by even the person prosecuting me, the prosecutor said, I'm not going to let you go to jail. You're too young, you're in college, you don't need to go to jail. But the judge didn't agree, and it made me mad at God. Like, how could this happen to me? If there's a God, then why am I always getting punished? And that's just the way that my head was working. And I was mad, and I was in jail, angry, and one day I got jumped. Mistaken identity situation. I wasn't who somebody thought I was, but I ended up getting my orbital socket fractured, and then they come and mace everybody. So this side's mace shut, and I go to the hole. And all you're allowed to have, you're in isolation. There's nobody around you, and you're only allowed a Bible and a blanket. And I don't really care much for the Bible, but the blanket was nice. And I couldn't really see, and I was in so much pain, and I was so mad. My wife-to-be was coming to visit me, my mom was coming to visit me, and now it's ruined. And I decided, you know what, I'm just going to give this thing a shot, I guess. It's been so long since I've talked. And I just remember just feeling so strongly, like, just read, just read. And I started reading. I started in the Old Testament and kind of reaffirmed what I was thinking, that it made me like, oh no. I didn't know where to start in the Bible. And I just started on the front and went through. And I remember the day I was praying to just see better, and it was the day I was going to start the New Testament. You got 18 hours to burn for a handful of days while they review tapes and realize you didn't do anything wrong. And I finished reading the book of Matthew, and I closed my eyes and I prayed, and I asked Jesus to forgive me and to show me how He really loves me, and to know that I'm loved, and just to have me feel comforted. And I prayed, I opened, and then I closed the Bible, and I said, we'll get into it in a minute, because I was emotional. And right as I closed it, the door gets knocked on, and they're like, oh, we finally finished reviewing the tapes, you could get out and go back to the normal part of the church. And I was quickly becoming the jail pastor, if you will. I just wanted everyone to know what I just found out. And I wanted everyone to feel the way that I felt, because it's, a bunch of people with issues, people that are broken, people that need help, people that don't want it, just like I didn't want it. And I just wanted so bad for people to know how amazing that this love is. And that it's not always, I always had my issue of, even after that, through times where I'm not worthy enough to talk to God, or I'm not good enough to talk to God. And I'm made in His image. He knew me before I was born, and I'm here. And He died for me. Clearly, I'm good enough. He wouldn't have died for me if I wasn't good enough. He wouldn't have died for any of us if we weren't good enough. And I think that a lot of times it's really hard to come to God when you just don't feel good enough. And that was my biggest issue. I still sometimes, my wife yells at me because I don't pray for myself. When we pray at night, I pray for her, I pray for the kids. Why do you never pray for yourself? I'm like, I don't want to waste this time. So, what do you mean waste this time? His time is infinite. You ain't wasting anybody's time. He wants a relationship with you. He loves you, and He wants to talk to you. Sometimes it feels like, oh, this thing's so little. Why even bring it to God? It's not a big deal. It's not like I'm dying or anything. I'll be okay. But God wants to hear about those too. And, I think that sometimes, for me at least, I can, a little bit like Jimmy was saying, so I kind of, not exactly distant, so I came here about 10 years ago, and then I got involved in a little bit of ministry, not as, not the way that I originally thought it would go when we met in school, but I was doing a little bit of youth ministry. And the church I was at shut down. And so it was very easy for me to go, oh, we'll find one eventually, but then just didn't for a very long time, and just didn't. And really didn't even try, because then now you're out of routine, and now you're in a rut. You don't have, the community that we all are here. We don't have that family to talk to us, to have somebody to talk to when we're struggling, to have somebody, to bounce ideas off of, and somebody to push us and nudge us when we need it, because we all need it sometimes. We don't know everything. And I think that what's going on here is awesome. I love, your guys' community seems awesome. I mean, everybody is just so friendly, and I do appreciate everybody this morning, by the way. And I think that is how, that's just another way that God shows us the way that He loves us, right? It's by us loving on each other, because, it's right in here. So us loving on each other and being a community and helping each other and pushing each other is significantly more important than I think some of us think sometimes. Sometimes it's like, I just don't feel like it, or, it's inconvenient. I don't want to do this. But you know what? Sometimes God leads us in really weird ways, like, what's happening right now.
Mm-hmm. So talk a little bit about your heart.
Yeah.
Lead us to that story, and then so Dan calls me a few weeks ago and says, I don't know what's going on. I'm in this Facebook group for people who have this pericarditis, and all of a sudden I'm talking to this guy, and he's telling me about how he's going to kill himself, and he lives in Spain, and next thing you know, other people are reaching out to him to ask him questions about the Bible and God, and he's like, it's just a Facebook support group for people with myocarditis or pericarditis, right? So just kind of tell the story of kind of getting sick, and just kind of how that's kind of brought you to where you're today.
Yeah, so when I got sick was kind of when I first, started to break out of that, I can't approach God, I'm not good enough to talk to God, and it's because I was just so low, I was terrified. I was just scared. My heart function is really low. They told me that I may need a transplant within the next 6 months, and the average lifespan with a heart transplant is about 9 years. I have two at this time. I'm 29, about to turn 30, and I've got a beautiful wife. I've got two beautiful little boys at this time, and one's like a newborn. One was born. When I got sick, I had a 1-week-old baby at home. And so it was just very scary, and it was tough on, everybody. And I went, and they said, your heart's not getting better. It's not going to. We'll do a transplant. We'll check you again in 6 months, and if it's not better, you have to get a transplant. So I go back another 6 months later, and randomly my heart functions at 30%, and they said, well, maybe an issue, why don't you just come back in a month, because maybe it was read wrong or something, they just were confused. And this is right at the moment when I'm starting to realize, I can pray for myself. That's not a bad thing, it's not selfish to pray for me, like, I have things going on too, and my family needs me, why wouldn't I pray for my own health, and for me to, be the best possible leader that I can be. And I went back and it was up to 40%. And then they said, well, now that it's above 35%, your insurance only pays for 1 year, which stinks because I always kind of wanted to know how often, where I was at. And when I went back on Monday, this last Monday, and it was at 50% all of a sudden. And he said, what are you doing differently? Are you doing something differently? And I said, no, I'm just praying. That's it. And he didn't, like Jimmy said, I don't like that answer. It's not, I don't think that's what happened. I'm like, well, you tell me then. And so in the middle of that, I had to have a pacemaker put in and a defibrillator because the heart function was so low that they needed something in case something were to happen. So they put one in, and unfortunately, they kind of botched the first surgery. It's supposed to be like an hour and a half, and it ended up being 5 hours, and the anesthesia wasn't really working for me, so I tell the doctor, I'm like, I'm right here with you. I can feel this. And they're just working on trying to get the thing in, and they couldn't get it in. They couldn't get two of the leads in. So they end up coming in here, a week later, and they collapse my lungs so that they can get to the valves, and they put in leads that way. And that's rough, because then you're in there for 2 weeks trying to get your lungs back and all that kind of stuff. And it made me develop something called pericarditis. I already had cardiomyopathy, myocarditis, all the heart things pretty much.
All the carditises.
Yeah, all the carditises, anything that's heart related pretty much. And so I got a very severe case of pericarditis, which is the inflammation of the sac around your heart. And it can constrict so bad that you can't really breathe and things like that. And I got it really bad, and I had to get on like a bunch of tons of medication, and it made you feel really crappy, and it took a little over a year to finally get it kind of healed down. And so I joined this group for people that have this same issue, because it's pretty rare, but it's very painful, and it makes life just hard to do. And, I posted on there like, hey, if anybody, I'm better from this at least. My heart still has some work to do, but I got over this. And I know I see all you guys post and everybody's struggling, and everyone's in so much pain, and everybody feels like there's no hope. I want you to know that there's light at the end of the tunnel. I did it, and I'm here for any questions. And about 6 months ago, I got a message from a guy in Spain, and he said, can you talk? And I said, sure. And he said, how do you deal with the depression from this? I'm from the Philippines. I just came to Spain. I'm not a citizen yet. I can't work now. I have no money. I don't know what to do. And I'm very depressed, and I don't know how to deal with it. I am currently writing letters to my parents because I'm going to kill myself today. And I said, well, hold on. No, you're not. No, you're not. Let's talk. And as we're messaging on Facebook, I'm calling suicide hotline in Barcelona, and they're like, I was like, I don't even know his last name. I know his name's David, and he lives somewhere in the city. I don't know, but he needs help. And they said, well, unless you could get his name, there's nothing we could do. And I tried, and he don't want to, because he, I'm sure, had an idea of what I was trying to do. And so I just talked to him, and I just felt God telling me, just love on him. He just needs love right now. And we talked, and we talked, and we talked, and a month later, he's still messaging me, 10, 20 times a day. Next thing you know, a month later, as we talk about, when he asked, how did you get through the depression part of it? How do you get through just being mad and being in so much pain? I said, only Jesus. That's the only possible way. And, now he is a churchgoer. He's, still deals with the pain and stuff, but he got saved, and all these crazy miracles have started happening in his life. And, not long later, I started getting other people reaching out. Next thing you know, I'm talking to, 10 different people. And it's just, sometimes ministry can look just like that, where it's just a little, I'm helping out people that need help, or I'm talking to people, or I'm just loving people, or I'm just showing them, I'm trying to show them Jesus through me the best that I can. Now I'm doing, there's a handful of us guys that have the same issue or other heart issues, and we're doing a Bible study once a week on the phone, and and all these miracles are happening. People are getting, hopefully getting some good things that happen all through some weird, crazy medical situation.
Yeah, and so you hear this story, and we're going to get a little deep. And Dan knows that. We'll go as deep as he's comfortable going. But in the midst of all of this, he also is still saying, am I even qualified to come talk to your church? I'm not what do I have to say? I don't have a degree. I'm not ordained. Or he has a degree, a bachelor's degree. He has the same degree I have. He took the same Merton seminar that I did. He just didn't get as hooked on Merton as I did. I love me some Merton. He's not very fond of Merton. And so that for me was just kind of reassuring to him. Like, no, man, this is what qualifications do you need to share people your story? You have this going on. And so it's been an interesting journey because, like I said, when we met, we were both going to be pastors. And he obviously had just had a different plan and path for his life, and he went down the path that he did, and he mentioned his church closed, but he also had a close personal friend die in a car crash around that time, I believe, and now, those things can pile up and really kind of say, you know what, because for me, it wasn't prison. For me, it was the Army. It was that bus in Oklahoma City Airport 7 days after 9/11, 14 days after I enlisted. And, what the heck did I do? How am I here? What's going on? Oh, there's God, because I'm an atheist at the time. I hear God's voice. Oh, I believe in God now. Magical things happen. I somehow am able to physically graduate basic training, and fill in that story more later. Most of you are very familiar with it. And then I get done and I don't need God anymore, and I just go back to the drinking, and then I get out of the Army and I go back to the drugging and the drinking, and it was an afterthought. And then several years later, a few years later, I meet Jessica, and she introduces me to her dad, who then introduces me to all of you. And then I started having dreams. And then next thing you know, I'm quitting my job, and I'm going to Baldwin Wallace. And then I'm meeting Dan. And Dan's like, yeah, I'm kind of the same. And I always thought he was like this preppy rich kid who had all this wonderful life. And he's going to Baldwin Wallace because Baldwin Wallace is in a cheap school. And a lot of the kids there have been very privileged. And, so I just made that assumption about Dan. And he started telling me a story. I'm like, whoa, it just wasn't what I expected. And he said, I just got out of prison, and next thing you know, there's these parallels, and but yet things then happen to him. And his church closes, and that opportunity's gone, and then he gets jobs where he's making really good money, and I've never made really good money, and there's a lot to give up, and so like I said, there's been a distance here, and there's Dan has some drinks, and he's still not living a Christian life, and he's like, well, I don't even know what TV shows do you watch? I'm like, the same TV shows you watch. I'm like, what music do you? I listen to the same music you do. It's not. You don't have to be a certain way. It's not about what you do on the out. It's about who you are in. And it's about getting that healing, right? And so for me, it's I want to see my friend Dan become the person that he was created to be. We've been talking about that jar of clay, right? I want him to recognize that he already is that jar of clay, that he is qualified to come up here and speak, that he has such a powerful story. And so what do we do with that? How do we begin to get the healing that we need while also beginning to do the work that we need, and also do the work that his family needs? Because his wife is a stay-at-home mom. She's 7 months pregnant with a third child, right? He's the sole breadwinner for the family. It's not like he can just quit his job and go plant a church somewhere, right? And so recognizing that there's so many different intricacies in these stories and in our lives, and all at the same time, we still don't feel like we're good enough for any of it. And so how do we kind of overcome all of it? Because like I said, the trauma and the stories that he hears, right? Abusive father, seeing his mom be abused, seeing his brother be abused, abusing other people in his life, not his wife, but fighting and doing different things, right? Abusing himself with drugs, alcohol, becomes a pattern. But recognizing where he's at right now, it's like, okay, it's time for me to change my story. How do I do that? Because for me, one of the things that I recognize is he gets saved, which I still have no idea what that even means. What are we saved from? I don't get salvation. What am I saved from? I don't get it. But he gets saved. He's in church every Sunday. He's becoming a youth pastor. And then what? What happens when going to heaven when you die isn't enough? What happens when saying the magic words or saying the magic prayer, getting your free ticket to heaven, isn't enough? Because I got my free ticket, but my heart's still failing. I got my free ticket, but I'm still having issues with my dad. I got my free ticket, but the inside of me still feels like I'm just nothing. I'm terrible. I don't deserve any of this. But I got my free ticket, so at least I go to heaven when I die. What happens when that's not enough anymore? You walk away. Because if all Christianity has to offer me is going to heaven when I die, and at the same time I'm going to lose friends and family, and I'm going to have to stop doing all the fun stuff, and I can't watch Yellowstone anymore, and I'm sorry, just not being able to watch Yellowstone anymore is not worth it for me. If that's a requirement to being a Christian, I'm out. Right? But we recognize that right now we have millions of people walking away from the church because they've recognized that there's nothing here to offer. You have nothing to offer me. We can get a really great band, and we get light machines and smoke machines. You can put on a rock concert every Sunday and make me feel entertained, and I'll pay for that because that's at least I'm getting entertained every week. But what are you actually doing to help me change my life? Right? And so we want to help Dan change his life. Dan wants his life changed. So now we start asking those questions. Okay, what's the next step? How do we change our life? Because he's getting opportunities. God has showed up in his life in a way absolutely makes no sense. Why am I still in his life? Why is this other pastor that's inviting him to come speak at things in his life? Why are these people in this weird Facebook group reaching out to him? Why is his heart getting better? Why is he having another child in the midst of all of this? Because once again, that didn't go over well with his wife's family. You're dying, and you're going to leave my daughter now with 3 kids and a dead husband? What was your response? Am I not supposed to live my life?
I said, just trust me.
Right? So we want to start kind of workshopping here. And if you guys have questions for Dan, ask him a question. Put your hand up, ask a question. We want to start
Adding
workshopping.
what Jimmy said, and I think that's why when the church shut down and I just decided not to go anywhere and I started to kind of distance and I kind of got back into some bad habits and things like that, I think that the thing that was hardest for me is that I just always was, of the belief that I'm a very broken person. And that there's no way that, I can't talk to God right now because I had a rough night last night, or, I feel too broken today. There's no way I could go and approach God right now. I'm not worthy right now. And that, I think, is one of the big lies that kind of get us really stuck in a rut.
Yeah, what's funny for me is so when I was first kind of trained, because remember, people, I was being trained to be a pastor before I had even been saved, because once again, we still don't even know what that means, right? But I was never just a Christian. It was always like, I'm a pastor in training. Okay, what am I training for? Okay, well, you're training to be a pastor. A pastor of what? A pastor of a church. Okay, what does that mean? Well, you got to accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, blah, 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 blah. Pastor had led me through all that after we'd already been training for several months to be a pastor, right? But he would give me these books, and once again, at the time, I'm still drinking. And when I'm sober, it was like, nah, I'm not reading that because I'm not really going to become a pastor. I still drink, and I'm still watching, The Real World. And if you can't be watching The Real World if you're a Christian. And I'm still listening to WMMS, and Christians don't listen to WMMS. And this isn't really going to happen. And then I would get drunk, and next thing you know, I'm picking up the Bible and I'm reading it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is an amazing book. And other books that I'm reading, and it was weird because the times at that time when I was drunk was the time when I was really getting spiritual, because for some reason the alcohol took away that filter that made me think that I wasn't good enough. It kind of numbed down that voice in me screaming how terrible I was, and I was able to really get these really great insights. And then it was like, because once again, I never decided, okay, I'm going to quit drinking. I just stopped. I never said, okay, I'm a Christian now, I got to stop swearing. I just stopped. Shut up, Jim. People used to count how many times I said the F word in a sentence just to make a point to me how often I said it, because I didn't realize I said it as much as I did. Right now, Grandma Ruth still has never heard me say that word. She died in 2007. She died never hearing me say that word. The only person who never heard me say that word. I never said it in front of my grandma, but everybody else is every other word. But the changes in my life, it wasn't said, okay, I'm going to be a Christian now, I'm going to stop these changes. It was the more I continued to grow in my faith, the more my life changed. But then, as you all witnessed, I got to a point where I said, this is it. I'm a pastor now. This is it. I just got to have people come to church every Sunday and tell them about how to go to heaven when they die. That's it. And you all going to keep coming here, giving money to the church to pay my salary, to hear me tell you how to go to heaven when you die? That's it? And, I spent 3 years trying to quit. Spent 3 years trying to give up. Because that's it? That's all we do is go to heaven when we die? And then as we've been talking the last year, how much did Jesus actually talk about going to heaven when you die? How much time did Jesus actually talk about forgiveness? Very little did Jesus talk about forgiveness. He didn't talk about forgiving. He talked about healing. The stories of Jesus healing people, not forgiving people. Healing people. He didn't destroy the temple. He cleansed the temple. We talked about that last week. Got rid of the pigeon dealers. And you know what? I found out an interesting story about the pigeons. Because pigeons...
He jumps around a lot.
Yeah. That's why we had that time. Pigeons, the pigeon dealers were a part of the repression at the time because pigeons and doves, depending on your translation, were used for the sacrifices. And if you couldn't afford a pigeon, you couldn't make your sacrifices. Meaning if you didn't have enough money, God wouldn't forgive you. And that's why he had such a problem with people selling the pigeons. Because how hard is it to catch a pigeon? They're everywhere. But they made it so you had to be able to afford to pay for your forgiveness. And that's why they were so upset with the pigeon dealers. I found that out this week. I did some research. Imagine that. It happens. Right? And so when I think about Dan's story, and I think about Aaron's story that we've heard, and I think about my story. We think about Lisa's story, we think about Jim's story, we think about Phil's story. It's not a story of Dan needs to be forgiven for all the terrible things he's done. Dan needs to be healed of all the terrible things that have been done to him. Now, we've talked about, and I know Jessica, you mentioned the death by paper cuts, right? A lot of us were the little T traumas. It was just dad being too busy to play catch. It was just not making the high school basketball team. And all of those little paper cut traumas have led us to be bleeding out. Well, I have thousands of little T paper cuts. Dan has thousands of big T gashes. And he hasn't bled out yet. He's still here. So why are you still here? Why is this still abusive family, going to prison, your heart fails, struggle with addiction, walk away from the Lord? You have every reason to give up on all of this and say, you know what, this is pointless. I'm going to go make all the money I want to make and live out my life the way I want to live out my life, watching Yellowstone and listen to rap music and all those things we're not allowed to do as Christians. But yet he's still here. If anybody has a reason to be mad at God, it's him. You had to allow all the bad things in the world to happen to me, and yet I'm still here. Why are you still here?
Well, for me, I think that when I was finally willing to not see myself as I'm too broken to talk to God, and I'm not good enough to talk to God today because of what I did earlier today or what I said earlier when I was mad or whatever, and you just feel like you got to hide almost. When I finally was able to just let that go and I was vulnerable and I didn't know if I was going to live or not, and I didn't know what the future was going to hold, and I finally got vulnerable because I'm not a very vulnerable guy. I've got walls up all the time. I think that's when I finally was able to, break away from the stigma that I'm not good enough because I am. And once I realized that I am good enough, that's why I'm here, I am good enough. And no matter what I do, I'm always good enough. I am good enough to come speak to God at any moment. And God wants relationship with me. And as that started to happen to me, I had kind of, I want to call it an epiphany, but just a moment where I talked to God and said, look, I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't care what it's going to look like. I just want to be used. And just like a hammer, I'm just a tool to be used, and I just want to be a reliable one. And that's all I want. And I want to, whenever I'm needed, I want to be used. And I want to be used as much as I can. I don't care what it looks like. But I just want my relationship with you to continue to grow. I want to continue to be the best father and husband I can be and make sure that I'm leading in the way that you would show me how to lead, and that I can be used to make, any impact, and that's why I'm here.
So it was funny because Dan and I, imagine this, we don't see eye to eye on a lot of theology, right? Most people don't see eye to eye with me on a lot of theology, right? And so as we talked to Jesse bouncing. So as we were talking this week, he would say something. He would say, well, I just recognize that I'm just not perfect, and that nobody's perfect. And I said, well, Dan, now we stumbled on one of the areas in which we disagree. And we had that conversation. And so he said, well, you got to let me know this stuff, because what if I say something in front of the congregation and I said, well, awesome, right? Because once again, I don't think there's still a point, well, there's not maybe 4 or 5 points of theology that Pastor Ed and I still agree on, but I still invite him to come here and preach, right? Because I don't need him to agree with me to come and share something, right? It's not about just one point of view. There's many points of view, right? And so the beautiful thing that Dan just said is that he's just a tool. And I use that metaphor a lot. And I never said a specific tool like a hammer, but I guess that'd be a good one, because at least you get to hit stuff. At least the hammers get to get out their frustrations on something, usually my thumb. But as I was thought about this, and I never actually kind of preached this out, and I kind of meant to a while back, I don't have a whole lot of affection for my tools. Most of the time when we think about tools, we put our tools in the tool shed and we don't think about them, we don't care about them until we need them. I don't want God to use me like a tool. I want God to use me like a son. Because when my son's a little bit old enough, that boy's mowing the grass. He's shoveling the snow. He's going to do all the stuff that I don't want to do but needs to get done. And if I have something that I want to get done, I'm going to use my son to do it, right? But he sleeps in the house. I love on him. I hug on him. I kiss on him. I care about him. I have a deep affection for him, irregardless of the job he does for me. There is nothing my son will ever do that will make me change my mind about my son. My son can fail at the task I give him. It's not going to change the way I think about my son. I don't want God to use me like a tool. I want God to use me like a son, because I'm going to fail. I'm not going to do the task properly. Imagine that. There are going to be times when I get off track and I'm doing something that he hasn't called me to do. Doesn't change his mind about me. Still lets me sleep in his house. Still cares for me. Still loves on me. Still hugs on me. Still kisses on me, irregardless of the job that I do. And so the difference, how we want to try moving away from some of the old school things, because being used like a tool is a common thing. I didn't invent that. Dan didn't invent that. I've heard Tony Evans preach that sermon. I've heard probably Joel Osteen's probably preached that sermon, right? But it keeps God at a distance. And a lot of us are comfortable with God at a distance. And I'm sure Dan is comfortable with God at a distance. Because if God is here and God is in me, then he really does know all the thoughts that are going on in my head. He really does know everything that I'm putting into my body. He really does know everything that's going on. If God is as intimate in my life as he actually is, I get really uncomfortable. Because now I know that no matter what I'm doing, no matter where I am, no matter what I'm watching, no matter what's happening around me, God is there. And sometimes when we have all these walls up, sometimes when we've been hurt, we're really uncomfortable with intimacy. We're really uncomfortable with intimacy. Sometimes it's hard for us, even as couples, to talk about intimacy with our spouses. Because you can't be more vulnerable than when it comes to intimacy. That is the most vulnerable you can ever be. And so when we start thinking about God in these intimate terms, and we think about his presence as the most intimacy we can experience, it's easy. No, I don't want that. I'll just be a tool. Just put me in the shed and don't look at me, don't think about me, don't pay any attention to me until you need me. That theology is easy. The theology of being God's son can be really uncomfortable because it's really intimate. Right? There are times right now where I have to look at my son's body because he's out playing in the snow, and right now we found some rashes on his hand, and I found a rash on his back, and then I recognized that this side of his back was really, really dry. Right? But if I'm not looking at his body when he's coming out of the shower, I'm not going to notice these things. So now we're making sure we put lotion on him. Right? There's an intimacy. When I talk about the objective of our life is to be able for us to stand before God completely naked. And he sees everything. We can't cover up from him. Right? And just as our spouses probably see us completely naked. And that's why that relationship, I always tell people, my relationship with my wife, Jim can criticize me all he wants. I don't care what Jim thinks about me because I know who I am. He doesn't know me. He can make fun of me all he wants. It doesn't bother me. Jessica gives me the smallest little piece of criticism. It destroys my world because she knows me. She knows me intimately. She knows me better than I know myself. What Jim says about me is nonsense. What Jessica says about me is true. Right? But what Jessica says about me is true. And when she says it, I know it's true. I know it's true. Because she sees me completely naked. Not physically. Emotionally. For many years, up until I got sick, this last year is the first time I've been able to cry in front of you. Before that, Jessica was the only person that had ever seen me cry. That was it. And it would make me so mad because when her and I would have an argument, I couldn't not cry. Because I know I was to blame. I know she's right. And my argument is just me trying to protect my insecurity. And it would break me every time, and I would just start crying, I'm so sorry, I don't know why you're with me, I'm terrible. Right? Because those walls are up. And so we have to learn how to be naked. I had to learn how to act, because, luckily I learned this from Pastor Ed, that it's okay to be naked in front of you guys. And I remember he did that sermon, and I'm pretty sure, I forget who said it, they yelled out, nobody here wants to see you naked. Right? You remember that? I think you were here that Sunday, right? Because he never not cried in front of us. He never once not cried in front of us. But Roy Quailsey said, Ed's biggest flaw is he cries in front of his people. Your congregation can never see you cry. Your congregation can never see you be vulnerable. Wait, what? What? If I can't be vulnerable in front of you guys, who can I be vulnerable from? We got to strip down those walls. Dan mentioned his walls. He mentioned he's not a very vulnerable person. Why? Because he can't be. Because anytime one of those walls slightly came down, he got smacked in the face by something. Anytime one of those walls slightly came down, his heart failed. He doesn't know if he can trust. He doesn't know if he can trust me. Well, I'm pretty sure he's starting to trust me a little bit more. Some of those walls have been coming down. He doesn't know if he can trust you. He doesn't know if he can trust God. His wife probably knows most of it for the same reason we just talked about. So we start talking about the intimacy of who God is in our life. I'm not a tool in the tool shed. I'm a son in the throne room. I'm seated with him in the highest castle. And when he wants me to do something, I do it. And if I mess it up, he doesn't care. It doesn't matter to him. I just want to be God's son. That's all I want. All I want is for Dan to be God's son. I don't want him to be a tool. I don't want him to be a whipping post. I want him to know what it's like to be God's son. All I want for you, I want you to be God's daughter. Right? And just as Dan has no idea how to be a son, because for him, a son is, hey, men don't do this. Men do this. This is how men behave. And he told me those stories, and you can imagine what he was taught about how to be a man and what sons do. He has no idea how to be a son. Not a real son. He has no idea how to be a father. He has no idea how to be the son of a father. Because what do you do when your father says, I don't need you? Your father says, I don't want you in my life. And then you come to church and you said, the Father loves you? What? I don't know how to be a son that way. Because for me to be a son is to get hit. For me to be a son is to be lied to. For me to be a son is to be, neglected, to be abandoned, right? So how do you learn how to be a son? I don't know. I don't know. Anything else?
I really love my hammer and it sleeps. So I
There's the Aaron in the trust file.
I know we're coming up on our time and stuff, and that's fine. But does anybody have any questions or anything you want to ask Dan? Or?
I've got a statement. If people question them why they're here, or what their role, or what ministry they're, and you've talked about it before. When you get out of the self-centeredness and you give to others, and you're able to help other people. When you're thinking of, you have to take care of yourself. But when you're thinking of other people and what's best for them, family or prison ministry or whatever, you're seeking out. It's a whole lot better, and you'll be able to reach out to a lot of people and they'll see that. It's genuine and stuff. But when you get out of this, did it for me, you're not going to go very far. But if you serve others, that he's helping with that support group. I mean, he wouldn't have been able to serve that. Wouldn't have been able to help if he didn't go through that. I mean, everyone's got different things that they can help. Different things, help people out. I don't know how it is being alcoholic, but there are people that have been through that and stuff and make it. And yes, it's all different, but if you're serving others, I think that's you got to focus on that first.
Mm-hmm.
That's when God radically shows up.
Yep. Judy?
There are miracles out there with God. I'm setting my mind.
Yep.
We were told that she would not live to be past 16 years old. She is now 50 years old. She's going to be 51 real soon. But there are miracles. She was just on a lung transplant list. They come out with a new medication, and she is now not on the lung transplant.
And she was so fat.
And she's so fat.
And she's so fat.
She had to go buy new clothes.
She had so fat she had to buy clothes for her mom's funeral because she had nothing to wear because she was so fat.
So there are miracles out there with God.
Absolutely. We've seen it firsthand.
Now you're saying you don't know why you're still here. I reckon it's because God's not done with you yet.
Absolutely.
He's still got his plan. You're still in his plan. And I think that's why things are happening, good or bad. It's part of his plan. And he's not done with you yet. So.
Yeah, it was when I was finally able to open up is when things started to happen, when I was finally able to start to let walls down to God. This was the one that took me a long time. When I finally made that decision and was able to do that, that's when, everything, it was a lot more happiness than sadness in my life, and a lot of great things were happening because I was just willing to draw as close to God as I could and be vulnerable. And and talk about my nonsense and give it up to him, because I kind of struggled with that, praying about myself, like I said. And when I finally was able to realize that it's not, some scary dad up here who wants to punish me because of what I said or did, everything radically changes.
Are your parents still alive?
Yes.
And how is your relationship with them now?
It's interesting, It's not, with my mom is good. With my dad is, it's,
A work in progress.
yeah, it's a work in progress. Yeah, I mean, there's some sort of relationship there, but it's, better than it was.
In so many religions, they put God in his golden throne, and he's way up there, and he's been many times I've heard him say untouchable. And I love to even look on his face, and God's everywhere. The air we breathe, the warm sunshine on our face when we walk out the door, he's everywhere. And that's the whole thing, is so many people think that he's not around when you need him. He's there all the time. The thing is us letting our guard down and just talking to him. And that's when things happen.
Well, the interesting thing, and I think the comment when we were talking the other week that really kind of spurred this, and I mean, this is one of those things where I know I didn't say it, but it came out of my mouth. I said, well, Dan, you got to recognize is right now your heart's being healed spiritually and physically. And that's really what's happening here, and, it's a miracle what's going on in his physical heart, but it's really also a miracle what's going on in his spiritual heart. And the fact that any of us are here, it's a miracle in our spiritual heart. Misty got miracle lungs, and all of us, I mean, those are extreme stories, but all of us are here because of a miracle. All of us are here, because things happened, and we've survived a lot of things that we probably shouldn't have survived. All of us carry baggage. All of us carry wounds. All of us carry scars. And the fact that any of us are able to come up in front of anybody and share a story is a miracle. And it's funny because we always celebrate the crazy ones, but we all need to celebrate ourselves. We all need to celebrate our lives and our stories and what we've overcome, because it's a miracle. I mean, it's a miracle anybody makes it through high school. You know what I mean? It's a miracle anybody makes it through puberty. You know what I mean? Like, that's just fascinating to me. So, but anyway, so like I said, I love Dan. I'm glad he was able, and I don't know what this did for you guys. I don't know if this was fruitful. I don't know if you'd rather have just sang a few songs and listened to me preach. But I know this was hopefully some sense of healing for Dan. I hope you guys got something out of his story, and I know I probably talked more than I had maybe intended, but you knew that was going to happen anyway. But like I said, so I hope this was fruitful in some way, and I hope hoping Dan's going to be around more, and I know even he's not here on Sunday, him and I will be in each other's lives, and I'll be keeping you guys updated about what's going on, but hopefully get to meet his wife and his children soon, and just kind of keep praying for him, keep praying for his heart, physically and spiritually. So